Hey guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to do a quick video on the basic tools I use for power carving, and we're going to start this wood spirit. Now, this is a repurposed utility pole that I was fortunate enough to get from let's call him a family friend, and we're going to put them to some use. People like wood spirits. I'm not big on carving them anymore. But they're probably the number one go-to for beginners, and everybody's making them, everybody that carves. And the reason for beginners is because it's easy to make it your own. You can do it straight, you can do curvy, whatever you want, but you're learning how to do some straight lines, some curves, and perspective, and a bit of shadowing effects and stuff, right? Knowing where things come out and get like the shadow of the nose on the mustache and whatnot. The only reason I love looking at them, I don't mind making them, but they're a little too close to the real world for me. I kind of see everything askew a little bit differently from other people, and I'm in the believer that there's no real straight lines in nature, so why put them in my work? I don't see it. I don't see anything straight and normal and whatever, but who cares about that? Let's address the hair here. One, I don't like wearing hats. And two, how can they call you crazy if you don't get the hair? Prove it, right? All right. Anyways, let's do a quick little run through what I use. I think it's everybody's go-to for professional, semi-pro, right down to the beginner. If you can afford them, they're not, like, getting into this is not cheap, just like most hobbies or whatever, trying to make it a living. I use the Dremel 4000 with the Dremel flex shaft. This is probably the most durable, best flex shaft on the market for 1/8 inch carving burrs or whatever, sanding, all that stuff. So it's got lots of power, and it's less likely to bog down than the 3000 or whatever. They have a new 4300, but the problem with the 4300, it's got a little bit too much torque, so you end up snapping bits and snapping your inner cables, which isn't cheap. So you got to keep that in mind if you're going to start getting into this. Because when we started out here, I went through myself a couple of these bits, just bending them, jamming them in there, snapped a few of these. Now, mind you, that was at like -20 out here because I don't have a heated garage and I live in Ontario, Canada. But like, to get the inner shafts at Walmart, you can get like 2 of them for 20 something bucks. So it's not cheap. These bits run, the 1/8 inch bits run from about $17 to $25. The 1/4 inch, 25 to 30. You're not going to break them. They're going to kick back and rip your face off. That's what's going to happen with those. But yeah, it's not cheap. Like the first, I don't know, month or so, we went through 3 or 4 inner shafts. I think 3 or 4 bits. To the point where I went and bought an extra flex shaft just to have it here. I've already replaced the bearing, or not replaced the bearings, but switched them around, cleaned everything up because the grease gunks up in here. Anyways, what else? I use for the bigger pieces, which we'll be using later on. This is going to be a series of little short videos. Today I'm just going to do what I do. A lot of people don't do this step, but I always pre-cut my lines with a finer bit to a certain depth. That way I feel it gives you cleaner cuts. It's easier to make it symmetrical, let's say, because you're dealing with more clean lines rather than just gouging and carving. But at the end of it, we'll end up using this bad boy right here. Now, this is extended straight shaft die grinder, which holds the 1/4 inch bits. And I use the Cuts-All extreme bits. I do use a few of the saber tooth, and again, when you get into this, you're going to end up like we had thousands of bits. If you watch any other carvers and stuff, and they show you their inventory, you go through a lot till you find what works for you and what works on certain kinds of wood, right? That's why you find most people are working with some kind of a fir or, evergreen, real soft and resistant to rot and mold and stuff. And but you can carve anything with them. Beautiful oak pieces, right down to stone. These bad boys will carve soapstone, just like you're carving wood. You'll have to take a bit more time. But here we are. That's the 1/4 inch shaft. Can you get, is it looking on that? See, now that will go right in here, and this will be end up just like a chainsaw. Every chainsaw carver, this is what they use right after. So you get finer lines in your detail and all kinds of bits, like doing eyeballs and all that kind of stuff. I'm not that far with the eyeball bits yet. I still pour and have to carve mine by hand. But, you know, we'll get there. And I'll show you I got the 1/8 inch, which I use. The 1/8 inch shaft. Now that's another, you see that there? Now that's a Kutzall Extreme. Now that's Extreme Rotary Burr. That's the main one that everybody carves with. You can do fine lines, detail, remove quite a bit of wood quite quickly on little pieces. And stick those over here. So what else? That's pretty much my part. Oh, I have a flex shaft. This is what I learned on. This is a 1/4 inch flex shaft that you can get, and it's only, I think it's $30 or something on Amazon. There's tons of these things. They're made all over the place. Now they can use from a 1/4 inch down to even a little bit smaller than the 1/8 inch bits. So that's what I learned on. So I bought this first, but you have to have something to run it on. So you can run it on a drill that has a trigger lock, or what I'm running it on here is just a cheap die grinder plunge router combo, but it's variable speed, right? And you could buy the Fordhams, but they're about $500. They don't bog down. They're only 2-speed, reverse and forward. This being a variable speed, you can remove wood fairly quickly, but it will bog down. You got to watch, because if it starts to chatter and you get in your thing, it's going to kick back and you're going to get hurt. Believe me. If you can get hurt by it, I've been hurt by it. You can also run it off of a drill press too, if you happen to have that. But be careful with those, because they don't bog down, and this thing will grab clothes and chew right through you. It end up coming at your spine. So what else we got here? Show you, this is my style, and I think it's fairly unique, but of a wood spirit. He's been shugiban, or however you pronounce that, Japanese treatment for wood by burning it, right? And then you buff it all out. And if you can see here, my hair and everything, it's kind of chunky and wavy. And now the beard is chunky and wavy as well. It's a beautiful technique. This also has 2 coats of Helm spar urethane by Minwax. I think it's satin finish. You can use it on outdoor furniture and stuff. So most people will use that for their projects, whether they're inside or not. Now, see my style of stuff with the curvy lines. Oh, sorry. Also, you're going to want the wrenches that come with all these things suck, so you're going to want to get a 3/8. You can get them anywhere. You can get them at a dollar store. But get a real one. Then you won't strip this, which happens. You end up rounding it off. People put them on too tight. And some cheap, this actually did come from a dollar store. It's a brass wire brush to keep your bits clean. If you keep them clean, they'll work smooth. You won't burn your wood. You won't heat up your stuff and melt your bearings. I've melted my bearings because I'm impatient and I like to push hard through things to get my stuff done while the thought is still in my head, or I'm still creative, before I flip over and start getting snarly and, irritable and want to pick fights. This is what I'll end up showing you. Now, this is kind of like my signature kind of dude. I know my lighting sucks, sorry, but here, I'm going to pose it for you. And right down to this. You really want me to be your neighbor? Right? And then that's more my style. Oh yeah, I forgot. This little dude here, he's got a butt on him. Look at that. I've been doing squats. This is I think the second stick I ever did. Now, wood, you can get it anywhere. I tried. This is pine, right? This is actually from a beaver pond, so it was seasoned without splitting, because it's down in the muck where there's no oxygen and lots of acid. So it preserves it, kind of, right? What else? I don't know. Go around. If you're living in the city, go to where you dump off your leaves and stuff like that. There's usually tons of wood there decomposing. They'll probably let you take it. Well, who knows if it's friggin' in Kingston, though. probably charge you right up the ass for it. But anyway, let's get cracking on this bad boy. Wasting time, start jabbering. All right, what do we got? Okay, so it's all how proportion you want. Do you want long hair? Do you want short hair? Do you want long beard? Do you want a long face? Whatever. Make up your own mind. Do it. This is how I like to have hair because my hair is important, as you can see, and it's always wavy and chunky. Then we'll come down to the brow right here. So you can see my hair. I haven't drawn it in. Hard to see on this, so I threw a little red on it. But my hair will come up and over, up and over, up and over, up and over, because the wind's blowing this way. So his hair is going to come up and over, and his beard's going to go kind of like this. Now I have down below, I'll show you in a little bit, that the mustache is actually going to come down and cross over each other, because there's a few, I don't know, the way the post is, it narrows down there, so I can't really make too chunky of a beard. So I put the thicker part up here. Now that's going to give me more depth for the hair and the face and the nose, which is, nose is one of the most important parts, right? You don't want it too flat, but I got a few inches of depth here. I should be able to make something out of it. If I have to make it a little smaller to get it to pop out more, then I will. But anyways, here we go. So hairline, then this is where the brow starts, right? Where the hair starts, the hairline. And then the forehead, however you want it. Remember, you can make it a big bulging forehead or whatever, but this will be one of the deepest cuts right here, because you have to, you know, how your brow recedes, right, into the top of your skull. And then we're going to come down to the actual brow itself. Listen to me, I sound like some freaking doctor. I've been reading medical freaking journals. What do we got? I like mine going up and down, so it's like, you know, the old, what are you talking about, bullshit look. So it just adds more character to it, and then you can make it looks better in 3D anyways. Eyes, they're a trouble spot for everybody, even myself. I screw them up all the time. Don't worry about it. You just want them to half-ass be centered. That's also why I like doing this, because it's a squinty. It kind of gives you a little bit of a break from trying to make it perfectly symmetrical, right? We're not doing still life here. You got to be creative. You got to be unique. Make it your own. It'll come from memories, you know, of people you've seen in your life. Some guy walking down the street 20 years ago, and you give it a chuckle, and you forget all about it. Next thing you know, you're trying to come up with something, and boom, there's that guy's alcoholic, bulbous red nose with all broken capillaries. That's what I put on my stuff, you know. Anyway, we're getting there. Nose. Oh, before we get too far, center lines. You got to have your center lines. Now, your center line can be straight, or it can be curvy or whatever, but if you want it to look half real, so people aren't like, oh, are you Picasso today? You need a center line, because you're going to shape into it, right, for a 3D effect. Now, I'll do center lines with everything. When we get into shaping, I'll show you center lines for the mustache to keep it even, all that kind of stuff. But anyways, down, this is straight. We're going straight. I wanted to line up these knots as much as possible. So we got knots here, but this one's a little off, so that's why I put it up in the hair. This center of the nose, there's the other one down here below his chin, and then there's some holes and stuff, a little bit of rot and decay, woodpecker action, so it's not going to be, it's going to be more of some negative spaces maybe, I'm not sure, but it's not going to be a perfectly symmetrical piece, and I don't want it to be either. So there we go, we got that working for us. So our nose, this is the hard part. It's the main feature of your face, and make and break it. So you want it to be fairly even, right? And your cuts are very important, because it's going to be, so you get about halfway down, right? About level with your cheeks. It stays about the same depth, like if you look at your face, right? And then right about where it joins your cheeks, it's going to drop right in to form where your jaw is, right? And where your teeth start. So this is what, when you cut down deeper, is going to give you your flare of your nostril. I outline my cheeks because it's a high point. I outline all my high points because I'm a bit more technical when it comes to stuff. I I freewheel once I get my initial shapes and what I want, you know, my cut marks done. Then I start getting a little bit more creative. So we keep them high, and we're going to shape away from them, right? So it's going to dip down below the eye. The eye is going to be protruding. Eyebrows out further. Eyebrows and nose are going to be the furthest out, and probably the tip of the mustache where it meets the lip. The chin as well, since it has a beard, then it'll dip down and come out where the beard comes out, right? All right, there we go. We're going on that. So when you start to draw your nose, you come down the center, pick however long you want your nose, mark it there, and then come up a bit, and then that's where you're going to put your nostrils, right? And then you will, from those points, kind of equal measurements from your center line and distance down. You're going to draw from your first point down here up to on a diagonal. So it's like a triangle. That's a normal nose. That'll make a great nose. That's how you do more realistic noses. I want this to be more bulbous. So what I did is I tried to make it, drew a symmetrical line, semi-symmetrical, whatever, so I can have a rounder nose. And plus, it gives me a bit more wood to play with in case I screw something up, which happens all the time. And then from that center line will be the center of the mustache, coming down to where it goes over the lip. And then we'll have a little down here where you can't really see it right now. I'll show you a little bit. We'll have a couple lips. But our main priority today is going to be cutting out the space, getting these red lines all cut out, and then they're like score marks to me, right? So anyways, pitter patter, let's get at her, I suppose. Back in here, yeah. 2 markers clipped on his chest, a chef's apron, glasses. What? Let's get going.